Welcome back to the Cruise Dynasty Podcast, Week 3 edition of the gambling content we putting out. Man, real quick, last week we hit a little snag. We were straight on the game lines. Finished in the positive on the game lines last week, 6 for 16. No, 6 out of 16 on the over and unders. But still, we're balling at the game lines. We're shooting 54% from the field. Swish. We're shooting 50% from the field on the over and unders, but we about to knock it out the park this week. Let's go. Money time. Man, with that said, we've been busy, so I'm going to just start rattling off every bet that the crew has placed this week is on the podcast, and it'll be in the description. If you check it out on Twitter, it'll be in the thread. Gambling, money, this is our favorite thing to do, but we talk it all. But with that said, I go solo, I get out the content, and I roll with it. And I'm coming at you today with 14 game lines that we have placed money on, and I have, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, I got 18 over and unders. Got a full slate, a full deck. That's how the crew comes. We come prepared, we throwing money everywhere, and we making money. So before I get going, 5-star review, add the podcast, tell a friend, tell them, yo, let's make some money. Go look at what these guys are doing at once a week. They're giving us over and unders, and we making money. So let's start it from the top. Now the two that we had two of them, 2 game lines that we had in common, and that was Green Bay, underdogs versus Tennessee, and Tampa Bay, minus 6.5 versus Denver. Those two were the two that when we went through and we talked it all through, that was the ones that we had in most in common that we liked. So Green Bay, the underdogs versus Tennessee, man, listen, man, me and I say it all the time. Some of these organizations are buttoned up and they can go get a win. I would pretty much always bet on coaches and organizations like the Packers, the Steelers. They can always go out there and get you a win. Well, me and the poor man P. Miller, we riding with Green Bay again. Malik Willis coming back home to Tennessee. And I just think Green Bay will get another win. I was off of it last week. I went Colts. I thought, hey, ain't no way they can lose to Malik Willis. But the thing is, good organizations know how to go out there and win ball games. Green Bay, me and Phil, riding with the Packers, underdogs on the road, plus 125, go make you some money. The other one I said that a lot of us had in common is our lock of the week, Tampa Bay, minus 6.5. We're 1-1. We're going right back to the well on Tampa Bay. We hit them last week, and we're going right back to them this week. That's the thing, man. We like to ride the hot hands. What you notice is in some of these, if we have success, we'll go right back to them in certain situations. Lock of the week, Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin versus Denver. Rookie quarterbacks, yada, yada. It ain't happening. So we're going right back to it. Tampa Bay is hot. Here's one thing I want to say about some of the game lines. I think the crew's testing out. We're wondering, is Tampa Bay, are they for real? I think you'll notice Minnesota. Is Minnesota for real? Are they legit? Cardinals, I've got that one in mind. I think the Cardinals are a lot better than what people think. And there was one more team out there that when I get through running them, I just want to know, are these teams for real? And it looks like we're going to bet on them and try to and take our shots. Next, I got the Colts money line versus Chicago. The Colts, they let me down last week, but here we are. We're going right back at it. They're going to beat Chicago. Their offense has looked terrible. I do think their defense is great, and I know A-Rich can make some mistakes, but I think he rushes enough, and they squeak out a victory. I got Arizona +3 versus Detroit. I'm telling y'all, this Cardinals team better than what people think. Kyler, a little bit better than what people think. I've even had negative things to say about him with his Call of Duty shenanigans and all that. But fantasy-wise, I've always been high on Kyler. But we're talking real football here, and I think Kyler and the Cardinals are a little bit better than expected in Arizona. So +3 versus Detroit. Jared Goff been struggling a little bit, struggling to put up the points. And then Kansas City versus Atlanta, unders, 46.5. We got Chargers money line. Let me tell you what, Phil. He had a good week last week. Phil sent me 3 money lines, all underdogs. He got the Chargers money line versus Pittsburgh plus 100. Philadelphia money line versus the Saints, and India. Let's see what was the other one? Man, Phil, you had me 3. Well, shoot, Phil gave me 2. I at least got 2 from Phil. Chargers money line versus Pitt. Philly money line versus New Orleans. And, oh yeah, that's right. Green Bay money line. My dumb ass. Stupid ass. Alright, so yeah, Phil, Green Bay, all underdogs, all money lines. Phil had a real good week last week. Propped up our percentage last week on the money lines, picking the winners. Phil does it again. So like I said, I'll repeat that. Chargers money line versus Pittsburgh. Philly money line versus New Orleans. And then Green Bay money line versus Tennessee. Next, we got the Colts versus Chicago, the under 45.5. Then we got New England. Only one person placed a bet on tonight's game, and that was the Kraft man, and he goes New England plus 6 to the New York Jets. There's some crazy statistic going around out there. Underdogs that are 5.5 or more points. Pretty much if you're 5.5 point underdog or more, you're 8-0 in those games outright. Not against the spread, just straight up winning the games. Testing that a little bit tonight. But Kraftman does go plus 6 versus the Jets. Kraft also has Philly versus New Orleans under 49.5. And see, that's one. We got one disagreement because C Swizzy, he took the over in that game. We usually talk about. We got one right here. So we got both picked the over and the under in that game. Basically, we're just that's a bet on, is New Orleans offense for real? Because it sure does look like it. Derek Carr, they're being super efficient. Rashid Shaheed is in the ball game, so if they put up a lot of points, Philly will go in there and score a little bit. It's that's a toss up, over and under. Las Vegas -5 versus Carolina. Look, riding that train. I know we discussed this on me. Chris has commented a couple times, wondering if the Panthers are as much of a guaranteed against to win money on. Now that Andy Dalton's at the helm instead of Bryce Young. So we're going to test that out tonight, too. Kraftman is going to throw a little money on Las Vegas -5. And like I said, Chris is testing out are the Vikings for real? And I think Chris is going to buy into it a little bit. Plus 2.5 versus Houston. Sam Darnold looks legit. I doubted them all offseason, but he looks all right. Going back to that Las Vegas and Carolina, we also got the over, 39.5. So the over and -5. Las Vegas -5 and the over in that game. And then Seattle -4 versus Miami. That's how we end our game lines. I'll go through them real quick, but like I said, they'll be in the description. Green Bay money line, Tampa Bay -6.5, Colts money line, Arizona +3, the Chiefs and Falcons under 46.5, Chargers money line, Eagles money line, the under on the Colts and Bears. Patriots +6 versus the Jets. Over or the under. We took the over and under. Philly is set at 49.5. Vegas -5 and the over at 39.5 versus Carolina. Minnesota +2.5 versus Houston. Seattle -4 and the lock of the week, Tampa Bay versus Denver. Tampa Bay -6.5, going right back to him, right back to Baker. Putting Baker in my lineup. He's the QB1 this week or this year so far through 2 weeks. Baker, man. In Baker we trust. Like I said, tossing him in the lineup this week. Lock over. No, the lock is -6.5 Tampa Bay versus Denver. We're 1-1. Had to bounce back last week from that bullshit Will Levis put us through in week 1. But let's move on. Over and unders. This is the part y'all really want to hear. And we placed a lot of bets. A lot of people had a lot of things in common. I got 3 demon bets, the ones that are hard to hit, but will have a higher payout. We got 16 of them, and these guys, 50%. You guys don't understand. If from a gambler standpoint, 50%, that's really good. But we're going to shoot higher. We both going to do it. Me and the poor man P. Miller tossed in a couple over and unders too, trying to get into the mix a little bit. So starting off from the jump, Brock Bowers over 47.5 reception yards, and I was totally wrong about being worried about the Brock Bowers landing spot coming into the season. I was super worried about it, but the Raiders, they I got to respect what Las Vegas did. They said, we're going to go get the best player available. He fell to us in the draft. And then they drafted him, and they said, we're going to get him the damn ball. He's our first-round pick. Love Brock Bowers over 47.5. Nico Collins over 70.5 receiving yards. And if there was a lock of the week, that's the one. Nico clearly looks like the big bad man in Houston. He just looks so good. He looks so strong. Looks like the alpha there. Nico Collins. Garrett Wilson over 65.5 receiving yards. Swizzy took him earlier to score a touchdown too. So that's 2 bets going on to tonight's game. Garrett Wilson to score. What was the other one I just said? Garrett Wilson over 65.5. Let me go ahead and read all the ones for tonight's game. Breece Hall to score tonight. Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions. So those are your best plays for tonight. Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions. Garrett Wilson to score. Breece Hall to score. And Garrett Wilson over 65.5 receiving yards. George Pickens over 48.5 receiving yards. Go to Prize Picks. I seen Chris had it dialed up for 45.5, 3 yards less. That's a line that you want to hit on. Hey, go look at all these different. We give out these lines right here, but go look at the different platforms. They'll have some different lines set up. Take your best lines. Rhamondre Stevenson over 16.5 rushing attempts. Easy money. Rashid Shaheed over 47.5 receiving yards. Shaheed looks legit in this offense. Like, he's a mainstay. He's definitely up there with Olave closer. He's not just some down the field threat. They're actually using him in intermediate routes and short routes too. Anthony Richardson over 40.5 rushing yards. That Bears defense is legit, and they're going to come after Anthony Richardson, and he's going to run more. He already averages 46.5 rushing yards per game. That's more than what they're offering right here, 40.5. I think he gets that done. Brian Robinson Jr. over 50.5 rushing yards. Chris Godwin over 60.5 receiving yards. Patrick Surtain going to be on Mike Evans. Baker Mayfield's going to do what he's been doing. He's going to feed them both, but he's going to feed Godwin like he's been doing all year. Saquon to score. C.J. Stroud over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Alvin Kamara over 0.5 touchdowns. He had 4 touchdowns last week, and they was going to give it to him again. They was trying to do it again. Dobbins, this one's a little demon next to it. J.K. Dobbins over 59.5 yards. Chris has been hot with him, been riding Dobbins. And like I said, Garrett Wilson over. Aaron Rodgers over 1.5 touchdowns. I forgot to touch on that one. Over. That's a little demon one too to pay out. Gardner Minshew over 221.5 passing yards. And that sums it up right there. Here, look, peeps. Like I say it every time. They'll be in the description. If you check me out at Crew Matt Ham on Twitter, it'll be all in the comments. We putting it out before every Thursday. That's where we've been doing it. Every Thursday I've been coming on here solo and making you money moves. I come in here to here's what I do. I have a conversation with the fellas. I write it down in my book of rhymes right here. I open up my book of rhymes, and then everybody who listens to the podcast makes money. Let me go over it again. Over and unders real quick. Brock Bowers over 47.5 receiving yards. Nico Collins over 70.5 receiving yards. Garrett Wilson over 65.5 receiving yards. George Pickens over 48.5 receiving yards. Rhamondre Stevenson over 16.5 rushing attempts. Rashid Shaheed over 47.5 reception yards. Anthony Richardson over 40.5 rushing yards. Brian Robinson Jr. over 50.5 rushing yards. Chris Godwin over 60.5 reception yards. Saquon Barkley over 0.5 touchdowns. C.J. Stroud over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Alvin Kamara over 0.5 touchdowns. Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions. J.K. Dobbins over 59.5 rushing yards. Garrett Wilson over 0.5 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Gardner Minshew over 221.5 passing yards. And Breece Hall to score tonight on Thursday Night Football. Go ahead and give me them fantasy points while we at it. I ain't going to leave out of here without talking a little DFS. I got it right here. Basically, the poor man Pete Miller, C. Swizzy, and the Craft man, they like to hop in them DFS streets. And I read off one lineup a week. And I'm reading C. Swizzy's lineup tonight, and he's going Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold at his quarterback. When you play DFS with these fellas, they really want to go cheap at QB, cheap at tight end, and cheap at defense so they can fill their lineups up. Chris is a cheap option, Sam Darnold. Then he goes Devon A. Chain. He goes J.K. Dobbins. Like I said, Chris been riding it Dobbins all week. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Chris Godwin. I love it. Drake London going back to him. Brock Bowers. So I guess it looks like Chris paid up a little bit more at the tight end position with Brock Bowers. Been pretty good. Jerome Ford, and then the Panthers D was the cheapest one, but they're going against Vegas. That's that DFS play for Chris right there. Trying to make y'all some money. But real quick, Chris, like I said, he says Sam Darnold is a good DFS play. Let me just go ahead and read what my source Swizzy says right here. Chris Godwin should stay hot. He's a good play, continuing to ride the J.K. Dobbins train. And if you were ever going to take a shot on the Panthers player, I'd take Deontay this week with Andy Dalton starting. Super cheap DFS plays. That's words from Swizzy himself, straight from the horse's mouth, trying to win you some motherfucking money. Yep, DFS. That's right there with you. Listen, if there's anything else you want us to cover, hit us up, man. We're open for it. I come down here every week, and I just drop a short episode with all our gambling content. Everything I read, the crew has put money on every single bet this week, trying to help everybody win some money. We're trying to win money, too. My advice is, during those game lines, if you like betting on game lines, and I'll say this every episode every week, if you like them, take which ones that we list out, that we've placed money on, because these are bets that we like. Take that list, and then pick you 2 or 3 out that you might like, that you want to win money on, because then you're like, I got this in common with the crew. I like this line. They like it. Same thing with the over and unders. These guys, they hit them. Sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're cold. We all are hot, all are cold. But we're all shooting above 50% right now. And I just named off 14 over and unders today. Take your 3 or 4 of them. And take the best ones you like and be like, dang, the crew like these ones? I like these ones too. So I'm going to put these together, parlay them up, make some money on Underdog, Prize Picks, Sleepers, wherever you do it at. But with that said, thank y'all for listening to the podcast. You might get an episode this week like the one last week. Those are our favorite episodes to put out. But gambling, once a week, you're getting them every Thursday, it looks like. 5-star review. Add me on Twitter. Look, man, this is all we ask. Listen to the pod, and if you like it, why don't you tell a buddy about this pod out there that's out there. They like to make money. They like to talk dynasty, talk redraft. We talk it all. But with that said, that is it. And we are out.